We've brought the 4x4 of the Year convoy up through the sand dune country of Western Victorian deserts. We've found some anomalies in some of these cars, the way the traction control systems and the electronics work on these soft sand dunes. So we've come back out to this one dune in particular, which is quite steep, it's got some ruts in it, the sand is really soft and quite deep. We've gone back over the cars again, checked all the tyre pressures, set them at 20 psi hot, so it's around 16, 17 when they're cold. Perfect for sand driving conditions, but we're going to play with a few different things to see what's making these cars struggle on the hills. Let's get in these vehicles, put them on the hill and see what they do.
Sand low range.
First gear.
Now it's buried, yeah?
Shall I try the rear this one?
So it won't drive up the hill now, will it?
What it could be doing is protecting the drivetrain, torque limiting. So now it's picking up.
But it won't give you that
As soon as it
full
digs in,
reps. Yeah. So do you reckon if you were doing a lot of dune country that this could become a problem?
It could be, yeah.
So we've been able to replicate that,
Yep.
and it might be a bit of an issue.
Yep. We might just grab that Prado and just gives an indication of what the hill's like and see how well that comes up and down.
Yeah. So that's low first, yeah?
Yep. Really easy with the throttle.
Getting stuck at that point, eh?
Right.
So what would be the advantage, Matt, if you start steering left and right as you try that?
Left and right, you get a bit of that. Gives the tyres a bit of purchase on the side of the ruts.
Yeah, it seems to be working quite well.
It's giving us more. You've got ruts here with the top where the tyres are, and look at that, pulls us through.
That's pretty amazing, eh? That gives you a lot of...
Yep.
Spoke too soon.
Yeah. Let's try the rear diff one.
It's a pretty difficult hill. It's a good test, isn't it?
It is.
Well, it's difficult without momentum, yeah?
Yeah, we can go to the bottom and drive up this hill.
Yeah.
No problem, but if you're doing a recovery or a hill start, it's quite tricky. So, look, I'm going to say it's not medicinal.
This one's not getting up there, but it's not, it's still giving you all the revs you want.
Yeah.
Whereas the Nissan was going, no, I'm not going to let you have all those revs.
Yeah.
I'm going to just let it go to, what was it, 4,000 or something, and that's it.
I think a lot of that is the torque characteristics of a petrol engine over a diesel too.
Yeah. So we're in the 300 series, and this has got a couple of tricks that maybe it'll get out if we bog it in that hole. Maybe it'll get it out, yeah?
Maybe it will. Once again, these tyres are down to 20 psi. Put it in low range.
So it got stuck there, yeah?
Yep. We'll try the cruise control. Put it there, and you've got control how fast you're going to move forward. It's just like cruise control for off-road, and it will distribute the torque to the wheels that have got the most grip and control your speed.
So what's that bouncing we're getting there, Matt?
That's the back wheels. They're digging holes in the sand and jittering. A bit of steering wheel work there, and it is moving forward again, but incrementally. It is still moving forward.
It's picking up a bit of speed.
I'm not touching brake or throttle.
We're just inching forward here, eh? It's the slowest speed, but it's still moving.
It's still moving, and if that's the only way you're going to get out of there, you've got all the time in the world.
And if this is hot, soft, super soft sand on a hill...
Yep, and as we saw, both the Prado and the Patrol stopped at that point.
It's starting to pick up speed. Mate, I have been driving sand tracks like this for more than 30 years.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
That is a great piece of technology.
My boots are nowhere near the pedals.
In any other vehicle, I reckon, just about, you'd be digging out the recovery gear, wouldn't you? We're in the Defender now, Matt, because we were pretty amazed that Land Cruiser got up that hill. So we thought, we better give the Defender a go because it's got similar technology, yeah?
Yep, so I haven't used it before. We're going to find it. It'll be within these menus somewhere. Real easy on the throttle there. That's going to get out pretty easy, actually.
Wow, look at the...
You can see the traction control working
dash.
hard there now. It's working hard and it's doing its job. That's pretty good.
Well, that's moving forward like the Land Cruiser was.
Yeah, exactly. It's just using more revs.
Got a bit of that wheel spin at the same spot.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing about this vehicle is you really need to familiarise yourself with also the Land Cruiser, with all the four-wheel drive systems that you've got. There's a lot of arsenal there, but if you don't know how to use it, it's not going to do you much good, is it?
Exactly. All these new modern cars, they've got so many systems in them, all designed to try and make things easier. It works.
Yeah.
For all the deniers out there, and I've been one of them, you got to spend the time, learn the systems to get the most out of your cars.
Yeah, that was a good educational experience, I reckon.
Yep, and both of us, we've been doing this a long time, we're still learning. That was interesting to see how all those cars work with their different electronic systems in the sandhills, getting them up the hill. Some of them are really clever and it pays to get to know how to use them. But now we're leaving those desert dune areas and we're into more open country. Still desert, still very arid up here, but it's open touring. As much as we love four-wheel driving, a lot of what we do is just touring. High range, four-wheel drive on the gravel roads, get us from one place to another, or just taking in the sights. More than anything, this is the sort of driving you do when you're out exploring Australia. Around about every hour we'll be swapping from one car to another, so let's hear what all the drivers had to say about each car.
Been driving through some dune country, and now we've come out onto some open gravel roads here. We're in the Ford Ranger XLT. For these sorts of conditions, this vehicle just feels so well sorted. The ride quality for a ute is fantastic. The steering feels nice, it's nicely weighted. It's got all the safety features that you'd expect in, you know, any 4x4 wagon. You've got them all in this ute too. The menu options are really easy to use. Fuel economy is quite impressive too. And as you can tell, it's pretty quiet in the cabin here. You can go over big bumps and stuff and there's no banging or crashing or anything like that. And yeah, it's just a really well sorted ute, and you can tell that the Ford engineers have developed this thing locally and put a lot of time into making this thing drive nicely on these kinds of roads.
Well, up next is the Nissan Patrol, and look, it's been with us a while. It is a bit of an older platform, but I feel it's something that really has matured in those years. One thing that haven't changed very much though is this dash area, and I've said it before, it looks like a cheap Canberra casino. It's not great. A lot of buttons, it's a little bit tacky. So I really wish we did get the interior update that other markets have with this model. But in terms of a vehicle priced in the sub $100,000 category, how can you argue with this? It's got so much power. It absolutely eats these corrugated dirt roads for breakfast, and it's still very capable in the rough, more technical terrain. You can really do a bit of everything with it. And sure, it's going to use a little bit more fuel than its diesel counterparts, but with this much power on tap, and considering you're paying just over $90,000 for a top-of-the-line, full-sized touring weapon Nissan Patrol, it's impossible to ignore that value for money.
The Land Cruiser, as always, is just made for touring these outback roads. It just lopes along smoothly, quietly, comfortably, doesn't put a foot wrong. This new V6 engine, it's got plenty of coke, works well with the 10-speed transmission. When you get the chance to drive one of these, you'll be pleasantly surprised by how much power it's got. It's quite rewarding when you put your foot down, get a bit of space to do so. The steering is precise, it feels more nimble than the old 200 series, and once again much better suited to this long distance touring that we love to do in Australia. When they say Australia is Land Cruiser country, they're not joking. It's just perfectly made for these conditions. And you know, if you're towing a big van, whatever behind you, it's got to do it all with ease. Nothing to complain about at all.
Toyota Hilux SR5. This one comes with leather and all that sort of stuff. Well, a little bit more of a classy feel in the cabin than the Ford Ranger, which is the XLT spec. So they're like equivalent specs, but this one's just optioned up a little bit more. Having said that though, it doesn't feel more luxurious in the ride quality. It's a little bit firmer, particularly at the back, and you can, both of these utes have only got a very light load, but you can feel the thing bumping around a bit more on these faster gravel roads. Everything else about it though, really nice. It has plenty of performance. It does everything you'd expect of it on these types of conditions, and it's a very well sorted ute. It just gets a little bit bouncy in the back end, and it's quite soft in the front by comparison, which gives it a little bit of an unmatched sort of feel. But steering, nicely weighted, does everything you want it to do. And for a ute, it's got quite a classy feel inside the cabin.
The Land Rover D300 is a tourer. What can I say? Well, it's so far doing a sensational job. We're on these, typical Australian outback, red dirt, gravel roads, with this all-independent suspension riding on airbags. It absolutely floats like a cloud. It's a dream. It's using bugger all fuel too, which is always a good thing. It's also having the height adjustable suspension. It's coming in handy. I've actually set it up in the off-road mode, but you can drop it down if you want a little bit better handling. There's plenty of technology, all these wonderful cameras, and the screens might seem like a bit of a gimmick, but when you actually use them, they do come in very, very handy when you can't see what's ahead. It's more for technical terrain, but it's still a good feature for these outback touring conditions. I think it's definitely passed the test so far. This is a vehicle you can tour with. Just watch out for roos, because getting a bull bar is going to be tricky.
I mentioned earlier that I found the interior of the new 300 series Land Cruiser very busy. The dashboard's got lots of buttons, it's very wide. This car is just much easier interior to live with. And just like the Land Cruiser, it's comfortable, spacious. Of course, it's not as big as the 300, but it's still family size, and it's a very comfortable thing. Outback roads, gravel roads, it gets along quite nicely. Yeah, it'd be pretty amazing if it had the Land Cruiser's new V6 diesel engine. That could be something else. We've still got the 4-cylinder 2.8, and it's better than it used to be. It's now quite refined. It's got enough get up and go. It's nicely matched to this older 6-speed automatic transmission. It's a very safe, very predictable car. Just the sort of thing you want for a family driving in uncertain conditions. Prado's steady and stable as always. Big day today, lots of kilometres behind us. We left the desert country of Victoria and we've come up into New South Wales via South Australia. So yeah, lots of miles, but some amazing country too.
Oh mate, that was a fantastic drive. All that sand stuff we did this morning and then getting onto those outback roads, just fabulous. Beautiful country.
And talk about a proper test for these cars. It was nudging 40 degrees. It's dusty, hot. That's pretty crazy conditions. It's a real test.
From the whole day today, we've been pushing those cars, like on that sand dune this morning, really putting them to the test, finding the electronics and stuff like that. Emphasise how much you've got to get to know your car.
Absolutely.
The feature on this car that we were looking for, we couldn't even find it, but we found out it does have it.
That's right.
But we didn't even find it.
We were talking about that last night, weren't we? It's like, it's all in there, but you've got to be able to work those menus via the screen. If you don't know how to access it, it's a bit tricky, but once you do, it works a charm.
Yeah, it's not even just menus, they're double buttons. So each button's got 2 functions at least. Even without finding the all-terrain progress control on this car, it still did amazing work. Once we got it in low range with the sand setting, it just edged up there beautifully. You could see the traction control working, did a great job.
Yeah, it seemed like it got up there easier than anything else, and I think as well as the technology, the tyres on this thing probably help as well.
Certainly did.
No, you could really see it. It was actually paddling them out, where the other ones were just spinning. It was definitely helping those tyres, absolutely.
Yeah. We're pretty lucky here. We get to do these big miles on these fantastic dirt roads for a beautiful country, and you don't get to do that everywhere, but for us from a testing perspective, we've got all those different conditions, like the corrugations and the cattle grids and the big sweeping bends in sand and on gravel and all sorts of stuff. And it really gives you a good feel for how these vehicles perform.
Yeah, and it's perfect for what we're doing. That's why we choose these roads. That's why we head out there, give these cars the test they deserve. Even after the time at the proving ground, days out on these tracks in the desert and stuff like that, it's still too close to pick.
It really is.
It's going to come down to the scoring against the criteria. We're really going to find a result, but I couldn't pick them now, just off the...
Yeah, I've been going through the scoring in my head, and I've already picked my favourites, but it won't be, as you said, until I sit down and score them against those 5 criteria that I'll know which one comes out on top.
Yeah, that's certainly something I found over the years too. You might have a favourite, and it's not until you score them and you're fair dinkum about it, you might surprise yourself.
Yeah.
So, more driving tomorrow. Got to get out there and do some more. Heading up towards Broken Hill and some more mountainous country.
Yeah, getting into the rocks, aren't we?
Yeah.
Should be a bit of fun.
Different terrain again. Time to get some dinner
and have a beer.
Have a cool beer.
It's been a big day.
It's hot.
It's been good to get back on these Outback open roads where the cars really get to stretch their legs. We get to see how they feel on the rough corrugated gravel roads that are typical in the Outback. Next we're heading further west into the barrier ranges in the steep Rocky Mountain terrain. Go back to 4x4australia.com.au and click on the links to follow the videos.